I dance, make it hurt.
Shalom, shalom. In today's video, we will be revealing the secret of the face of Esau and the secret of the hairs. Now to begin, it is written, it grieved Hashem at his heart. And also it is written, wine that rejoices the heart. We know that the heart refers to the Partsufim of Zerainpin, that being the lower six Sefirot, Chesed, Gevurah, Tifreth, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. In the first book of the Zohar, it is written, when the Holy One looks upon the sins of the righteous, he sheds tears. And over there it states that there are two tears. The secret of the continents of the frowning face is when he looks upon Yesod. An example, it is not in its place. It sins, referring to it is not established. He sheds tears. These tears are the Sefirot themselves. It says over there that it shakes 390 firmaments. 390 is the numerical value of the word Shemayim, or firmament, which alludes to the Partsufim Zerainpin, which is also called Shemayim. These two tears were called bubbling water, which allude to fire and water. Fire coming from the left, and the secret of the eighth Sephiroth, Bina, which means a fire. Like it is written, on the eighth day, a fire offering to Hashem. And water from the right side, and the secret of the sea of Hokmah, by which Chesed is associated with the water. Thus the word heaven, Shemayim, is a combination of the word Ish, fire, and Mayim, water. We can see this practically applied in terms of the forms. An example, Chesed and Gevurah are the two eyes, and when he sheds tears, it means it descends into the lower. An example, Chesed descends into Netzach, and Gevurah descends in Hod. If we apply this to the forms, the desire body shuts down, and afterwards, the emotions are magnified. The mental form, which is Yesod, also shuts down. And so as the upper king is grieved, we are grieved. To fulfill, like it's written, it grieved Hashem at his heart. Similarly, what goes out of the mouth, an example, the nukva are the 22 letters. And as we know, the 22 letters are panim ve'achar, they're fronts and backs. And so it is written in Lamentations that out of the mouth of the Lord goes good and evil. The opposite is also true though. When Yesod is proper and the righteous are in their place, it gladdens the heart, causing the king to thus smile. And so as we can see, the connection between Hod, Yesod, and Netzach causes the king to smile. The proper ratification. Even more so, we find in the two eyes. All 10 Sefirot in their circular aspect. The reason why the Simsum is being used here is because the Simsum is the secret of Hokmah, and it's written wisdom in understanding. And as it is known, Hokmah descends into Chesed, and Bina descends into Gevurah. That the eyes should be the secret of the Sefirot. An example, the white of the eye is likened to the Ain, the Hokmah is the color, and the Malkuth is the pupil. This in turn splits into 3 columns, for the tears build up in 3 places in the eyeball. On the inner part of the eye, the outer part of the eye, and the center of the eye, from which the inner part of the eye refers to sorrow, the outer part of the eye to joy, and the center of the eye in the Stoic sense. For example, your eyes are dry. So now let us go into the deeper aspects and discuss the secrets of Esau. In order for us to understand what Esau actually is and the secrets of his Partsufim, we must understand the worlds and the Simsum. This is the Simsum, the circular aspect as has been demonstrated in many places and in many videos, and we've learned in those places that this is the restriction or the withdrawal of God's presence, that this happened in the beginning. From this we learned that everything was circular on the highest level and everything was circular on the lowest level. An example, the planets are revolving, and similarly atoms, protons, electrons, and neurons are all revolving. That being said, the hairs were created from the cascading of these worlds. An example, in each one of these worlds, the vessels were broken. And this caused the upper Simsums, the circular aspect of each world, as it is known amongst the sages that every world has all of the aspects, including the kings, by which the circular aspect cascaded the linear aspect. The worlds were destroyed. This causes the worlds to fall, as it were. And so this is why Esau was called a hairy man, and why the angel over him is death, because it represents the destruction of the vessels, where the hairs are the falling of the worlds, the cascading of all of the upper worlds. And this is the face of Abaddon, the destroyer, an example, the destroyed worlds. And it's why they said that Abba and Ema were underneath the beard, and the beard were covered in all of the hairs. An example, that the Partsufim that were before their destruction were underneath and within that. And that the hairs, being all of the cascaded, destroyed worlds, hung from those places. And so it was described as such. And the destroyer is described as such. And Esau is described as such. And with this understanding, you can understand why Esau was called a hairy man, why the angel above him was appointed as death, and where the hair comes in our aspects. But behold, it was written, Yaakov was a smooth. And now, in the likeness of the destroyer, in the likeness of the hair, in the likeness of the circular, when it cascaded with the linear, and created all of those primordial, like the face of the destroyer, so too do we see. And in its likeness takes death, and so too do we see in the roots, the same likeness of the destroyer. In the secret of the cascading of the worlds, the death of the worlds, when the circular and linear cascaded, which created the likeness of hairs. And in the same likeness, hair is death, in the likeness of those worlds, which even continues to grow after death. And in the same likeness, the roots receive death, and all that go into the soil is death, by which the tree, an example, the destroyer receives. Meanwhile, the plant, being an example of the panim, receives the light. And so the light is to the upper, and death is to the lower. And we are talking about the secret of the lower. And in the same likeness, this is the root of the physical, by which is maintained by that exact same source, death. It navigates it as such, because it was patterned after death, the death of the worlds. And this is the secret of that supreme beard, that great destroyer, the secret of Esau, and the secret of his connection to the angel of death. An example, he is connected to the death of the worlds, for the sages knew this. And the upper, his hair is like white, like wool. But nonetheless, it was described until the hairs fell. And this is the destruction of the world of Chokmah. And the hairs descended there, and they hung there. And similarly, in another place, it says his hair is black like a raven. And so those hairs as well cascaded and hung in those places as well. And so that there were faces And again, I tell you guys, Yaakov was a smooth man. So with that being said, this is a very general overview of the matter at hand. But if you would like another video on this subject, or for me to go into the particulars of this subject, which from my understanding, this video is the first to have discussed it in any serious capacity, I can do so. May Hashem bless each and every one of you and open your eyes to behold the wonders of His Torah. Contemplate very carefully about the hairs and why it is written, Esau was a hairy man. The secret of the destroyer, the secret of the beard of a reclined pin, the hairs that cover the upper body, the primordial garment, the destruction of the worlds, and the cascading of the upper worlds, the circular and the linear. Until then, Shalom, Salah.